When we think of Sea Ray in Europe, we tend to think of sports cruisers and cuddy cabin style boats, but actually Sea Ray have been building big flybridge boats for many years, mostly for the domestic market. Now Sea Ray are looking to broaden their appeal, and this is the first of a new breed of flybridge boats for Sea Ray. This is designed to appeal much more to European tastes. So you've got much sleeker styling than we're used to with Sea Ray. You've got the extended overhang of the flybridge, giving a lot more shade in the cockpit and a bigger space upstairs. And the whole idea of this is to tempt people from their azimuths to their princesses and their sunseekers. Here in the cockpit it's all pretty conventional as you'd expect. There's a bench seat at the back here and a large table. And of course, as I mentioned, you've got this overhang here giving plenty of shade. But up on the flybridge it's absolutely enormous. So up here on the flybridge, Sea Ray have used this extended overhang to give a terrific seating area around the back of the bridge. There's also another dinette just over on the starboard side here, and then the helm over here on the port is set back a bit, so you've got a great sunbathing area in front. It's quite a nice idea because it means you've got kids on board or whoever lounging around on the sunbeds, you can keep an eye on them while you're at the helm. Another nice feature up here is this optional hardtop, and Sea Ray have put a really massive opening in this section here, so that when you've got it retracted as we have today, you feel like it's a really open experience. And in fact, talking of that, there's also an extending bimini at the back. Push a button and that rolls back to give you some shade over the dinette at the back. There are a couple of things that American boats are noted for. One is very big sociable living areas. The other is perhaps being a little brash on the inside. This boat is one, but it isn't the other. It has the wonderful social areas. There's a great big saloon area here, of course, and it connects wonderfully with the outside via the big opening doors, and another dinette up here. But what it's lost is that brashness that you got on earlier boats. So you've got much more subtle colourings here, everything's a bit more muted, everything's a little bit more sophisticated. The only thing I do have to mention on this particular boat is this floor. Now this floor is the absolute height of chic if you're a terribly, terribly trendy person. It's got that, what they call, slightly distressed look. If you're a bit more like me, a bit more old-fashioned, there are other alternatives. Now the other thing that American boats are always famed for is their massive fridges in their huge galleys. This has got a huge galley, but it hasn't got the massive tower fridge. What they've done with this rather cunningly is put 4 big refrigerated drawers down here, so you've got fridge capacity, but you haven't got that overwhelming big high American fridge. Talking of being cunning, they've got some very clever storage solutions under here that allow you to get right back under this corner of the galley. And over here on this side there's actually a drawer system that rises electrically, so when you're using the galley you can raise that up, and again it just allows you to use every area of this galley section. Over on this side there's the helm, and that's got a couple of very nice fully adjustable and very supportive helm seats with proper footrests on them. It's a very comfortable place to drive the boat from if you're helming down here. Finally you come down to the lower level, and down here it's pretty conventional for a boat of this type and size. So what you've got is a VIP cabin forward. That's got its own very nice ensuite, and then you've got 2 guest cabins, one to port and one to starboard. They're identical with 2 side-by-side berths, that both of which can convert to a double, so you're not going to have your kids squabbling about who's got the best cabin. And then finally, back down under here, of course, you've got your full beam master cabin. A nice touch with that is they've put the heads compartment right across the back behind the rear bulkhead, so that puts you 2 bulkheads away from the engine room, and the generator is right at the very back of the engine room, so you're about as far away as you can reasonably expect to get from any noise at night. We've got some proper brochure weather out here today. It's an absolutely fabulous day to be out on the water, and this is what boating is supposed to be all about. This boat that we're on here has got the Caterpillar C18A 1150 horsepower engines, and that's giving the boat a top speed of about 29 knots. But the thing I've noticed with it is that as you open it out onto the plane, although you're sat fairly well back on the flybridge, the boat lifts onto the plane very flat, so you don't get a lot of bow lift and you don't lose your sightline over the bow as you're picking up the speed. The other thing I've noticed is that it actually planes at very low speeds. You can actually get this boat onto the plane at about 15 knots, which is where we are now, and it'll sit at that very comfortably. And with that 29 knot top end, it means you've got a very wide cruising speed range, and it means that you can pick your speed to suit the conditions or to suit the sort of boating you want to do, rather than being dictated to by the boat, being in a certain speed range for the boat to perform nicely. This boat is on shafts with rudders, and it's interesting that I've driven a lot of pod drive flybridge boats recently, getting back on a shaft boat, you can really feel the difference. Pod drives are very, very responsive, they turn very well, and they feel very sharp to respond. This is a much more stately response. When you put it into a turn, it banks very gently and it turns very gently. And it feels a much more relaxed cruising experience, which is kind of what the boat's about really. Munching the miles, cruising past a beautiful coastline. It really is a perfect boat for that. When I first heard about this boat, I was rather concerned that Sea Ray would just create another identical European style boat, exactly the same as all the European boats that are already out there, and that would rather beg the question, why would you bother to buy a Sea Ray rather than one of those? But in actual fact, what they've achieved with this is to build in that lovely, warm-hearted, social American feel, and yet they've wrapped it in the sort of European sophistication that's going to mean that it appeals to buyers on this side of the pond.